The Valley Current.
Hey, Julie, how have you been?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. You're in Zurich, right?
I am indeed.
Wow, so it's a little late for you, but I appreciate you waiting for me. I owe you.
Well, of course. Well, you come back. You come back and come and see me. You bring your wife. It was fun.
Absolutely. So tell us a little more about what you're doing with Follow the Entrepreneur, because I've always been amazed how you're extending Silicon Valley into places like Zurich and Greece and probably throughout the world. But tell us more about what you're doing with that.
Well, just when you think that maybe the golden age of entrepreneurship are all the things that have been created, the world gets in a mess and you need the entrepreneurs to sort it out and solve the problems. And so I think we're actually seeing the rise of the entrepreneur as society's problem solver. Like everything, it's going decentralized. So we're expanding our summit program. The FT Capital Markets is now 6 times a year. It's in multiple markets, expanding into Dallas, expanding into Cyprus. We've been in Greece. We've been in Switzerland. As you know, we went around the Med. And everywhere we go, we kind of have amazing entrepreneurs join our community because I think entrepreneurs feel very comfortable with other entrepreneurs, right? They understand the near-death experiences, the breakthrough moments. They're fixated on solving problems. Everybody thinks that they're just all about the money, and actually the money is just it's over there somewhere, but they're really, obsessed with solving a problem. And so I think, as the daughter of an entrepreneur and just really seeing the impact, the social impact of entrepreneurship is just the best thing I could do with my life. And I have so many friends that have come out of it. So we refer to it these days as not just follow the entrepreneur. Of course, we always say it's an invitation to follow the entrepreneur, not follow the capital, follow the entrepreneur. Today I had a 2-hour meeting with one of the most important investment management firms in the world, you can imagine, in Switzerland. They're all here. And the biggest thing on this woman's mind, who's the CEO of the Swiss operation, was just, how do I get into the top private deals? The entrepreneurs that are, and she knows that I know these people and I've probably known them for 20 years. And so, we have very large fund managers coming to our summits, not just the entrepreneurs, but big money that's following them. And a good friend of mine said when I was quite young in my 20s, he said, the money will find you, right? So he said, don't worry about the money, Julie. I was in Paris at the time and just starting out. He said, the money will find you. And really what I've realized over time is that capital always follows ideas. And so what we do is we bring that together in the capital markets, FTE capital markets.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing something that in many ways people are only now, even in Silicon Valley, starting to realize. Like Silicon Valley really started back in the 1950s because of all these military contracts that were being issued following World War II. And entrepreneurs got created as a result of some of those initial companies doing well enough that they could actually then fund other people. And now it's a whole industry, but you're extending it. I think you're extending it into Europe in ways that a lot of people don't realize, because Europeans tend to be a little more conservative, and the Swiss probably even more conservative, right, compared to others.
Yeah, you know what I think? It's a good observation, Jack. And what I think is Europe is like an eldest child, and America is like a later born child. And so, if you're the heir to the throne, if you're the heir to the factory, if you're the heir to the winery, if you're the heir to the shipping company, you don't want to disrupt it. You want to carry it on. So fundamentally, the whole nature of change in Europe is a different thing than what, Americans will, kind of throw over the apple cart. Americans think that money will solve any problem. Let's build the world anew. The famous, Thomas Paine, I think Europeans are just very much about how do we protect and extend. And so, what I find really interesting when I talk to, the the C-level in very large companies. And I don't know because I don't spend all that much time in the US, but they know how their houses are being broken. I kind of play a game with them. Let's break into your own house. They know how their houses are being broken and whether they're an insurance valley is like right across the lake there,
Mhm.
the Munich Rees, the Zurich Rees, the Swiss Rees. And it's just that what hasn't been done and what I have tried to do for quite some time with some success, and we're picking up even more success, is to bring the so-called intruders, the entrepreneurs, into the house. So
Right.
turn the disruptors into the enablers,
Right.
right? And that's, I think, a point of the cycle that we're in the innovation. It's even as there are huge disruptive things happening, there's a lot of other technologies that are kind of being embedded into the large companies, and a kind of new common sense is emerging, right? Those companies also need to get to the future. It's not just 25 companies out in Palo Alto that get to the future and dominate the universe, right?
Right.
There's other companies that kind of figure out the playbook too.
Well, you've done it now for like the last 20 years, right? You've been at this, and you're one of the first women to be at this in terms of
Well,
bringing people together this way, right? Realistically.
well, my mom would say I've been doing this since I was 6 years old. I was in charge of the family reunions, so I've got a long exposure to bringing people together. You're very sweet that you think I've only been doing this for 20 years. So we're gonna keep that. 20 years is a good. We'll just say it's 20 years, right? But it's even on a bad day, and there's really not that many bad days. But even on a bad day, it's a good day because you see entrepreneurs jump tall buildings in a single bound. It just doesn't get better than this. And I remember so many. My life is just strewn with all of these stories of all of the first peer-to-peer lending deal in the world. Helping Nicholas Sundstrom with 6 of my team flipped into Skype early on. First person in the world that Daniel Ek spoke to about his financing, taking monetized public, selling Beat That Quote to Google, and it's fabulous. And it's just Europe really needs its entrepreneurs right now. We could have a political discussion, but we won't. But the point is that Europe needs its entrepreneurs. It needs to create growth and revenue, and it's going to be redefined by its entrepreneurs. And you have this generational shift of wealth, probably in America too, but certainly in Europe. The keys to the car to these Mittelstand businesses, the big family businesses, and these are at the low end, they have $1 billion of revenue, right? And it's the 45-year-olds that are taking over those businesses. And one, they don't trust their private bankers. They're not handing over their money to some sort of Swiss private banker. They want to be actively engaged. They want to put that money to use, maybe back into the family business, maybe putting the business on blockchain, maybe opening a master wallet with crypto, but they're innovating. And so there's a real burning platform for those, the Mittelstand, which has moved generationally to engage with the entrepreneurs in order to, get to the future, right? There's many versions of the future, but the only one that I see it's going to be anywhere close to a good future for Europe is where the entrepreneurs are front and center, and that kind of aligns with our whole tagline, our mantra. We say society works best when it's organized around the entrepreneur, and I know you believe that because we've talked about that. We talked about that way back, in Kia and Athens and all those great conversations that we had. Society works best when it's organized around the entrepreneur.
Now, your next conference is next month, right? You have one that's coming up soon.
We do.
What's the date?
We have two actually. We have in Zurich the 2nd to the 4th at Lake Zurich.
Right.
So that's just under 3 weeks away, and we have some amazing people there. And just to show you the kind of range, I mean, because it's not just Swiss technology entrepreneur doing B2B software. We have literally one of the leading top Iraqi industrialists who's rebuilding the country of Iraq in terms of just an amazing individual, right? Iraq is not on the sanctions list. People confuse Iraq and Iran. Iraq is a good country. It was just destroyed, so it's
Right.
shipping oil in. It has one of the largest reserves of oil, liquid natural gas. So Iraq, we have a leading industrialist. Then we have one of the top Bitcoin funds, a guy who was part of a team of 60 people who was investing out of Bailey Gifford, the leading fund manager, and he has his second Bitcoin fund doing extremely well. We have all sorts of entrepreneurs that are doing things in cybersecurity, retail, and so forth, but second or third ventures that are scaling, not early stage companies, fast growing, high velocity technology enabled businesses. And then, of course, we have our multi-manager platform where we have selected different funds. And these funds are as far as from paddle, the racket sport, a whole fund focused on that, to defense tech. It's a huge diversified platform of investment opportunities that people come to. And then, of course, 1 month later in Kia Greece, where you've been, we have our Kianissos edition 6. And, the Greek government has just opened up an entire huge fund to decarbonize the islands. And so we're just 3 months into, working with the Greek state to basically help them, find wave technologies, renewables, all of these types of things that can really transform the islands into a network. And of course, our whole tagline there is live a life that you don't want to take a holiday from. And Kia, where you've been, the island closest to the mainland, it's got 2,000 people there. So for those who know how to roll things out, adoption is always the problem. But if you're trying to roll something out to 2,000 people, which is 500 families and so forth, that's a lot more easy to do than to roll it out in a city of 3 million people and, spend lots of money on marketing. So there's all sorts of opportunities, but Zurich, Switzerland, Greece, they're not necessarily the countries that people in San Francisco, they think, oh, let's go to London, right? Or, oh, the hotbeds are Berlin and Paris. But I've always found you got to go off the beaten track. You got to go off piste.
Well, it's a beautiful island, and it's got some great trails too, great hiking trails, and some really beautiful beaches too. Some really great beaches.
There's 23 beaches, and as you know, we're buying land on one of them right now. And our Kia Valley concept, obviously inspired Napa Valley, Silicon Valley, Sun Valley, etc. So Kia Valley is first of all, it's a KV1. The first acquisition is 250,000 square meters, and we're launching a whole community there. I mean, in the end, we'll have vineyards. There's all sorts of vineyards on the island, but we'll have wineries. Is what I meant to say. There's vineyards, but nobody has actually created a winery on the island, despite the fact that there's so many vineyards. So there'll be a whole gastronomic thing that we'll do eventually. We've got one of the most important health. He manages the health of some of the royalty out in the Middle East. He's coming out to look at creating a wellness center at Kia Valley. We'll be doing, high-end property, but also middle income, in town. So we're really creating a whole community and rethinking how society is set up. I've been along, you've always, the goose and the golden eggs. Let's build assets and monetizing revenue streams. So we don't need to run off to the government because the government doesn't have any money anyway, right? Let's build things that generate revenue, benefit of the community.
So how do people learn more about your various conferences? Where would they go? What website?
It's a very FTE for Follow the Entrepreneur, FTE capital markets.com. Okay. FTE capital markets hyphen.
And they'll see the whole lineup of conferences that are going forward.
They'll see past keynotes, which are fun to watch to get a sense of all of the people. They'll see the two, Kia in May, 8th to the 11th of May, and 2nd to the 4th of April in Zurich, at Lake Zurich. They'll see a bit about the history, our playbook, ecosystem economics, my business partner, Alex Zaleska of Spartan Capital. So absolutely. And, we'd love to we were so thrilled to have you and your lovely wife. And we'd love to have more of our friends from Silicon Valley.
Oh, yeah. I should tell you something because I have to give you credit for this. I get a call from someone in Silicon Valley, and they say, I saw your video that you did from Greece. I was like, you did? He said, yeah, we were searching for a lawyer and we wanted to see how well they presented. And my partner or someone in his organization said, I found this video where you were doing this presentation in Greece.
Well, you were amazing.
And they said that's why we selected you to handle a case. I did this ginormous case for them, and it was based on something that you created because you created that video in real time, very authentically.
I'm thrilled to hear that. But you were amazing that day, and I think everybody was quite in awe of your stories and your success, and people just gravitated to. I remember so many of everybody wanted to have a piece of you, and so forth. It was really wonderful.
We're definitely going to come back, and the only issue is whether it's Zurich and Kia, or Kia and Zurich, or some combination. But we will do it probably sometime within this coming year for sure. But it won't be next month. It won't be next month. It'll be the next one. Thanks, Julie. Thanks for spending the time. I appreciate you coming on. You take care.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.